As the new millennium rolled on, Lennox Lewis stood alone at the summit of the heavyweight division, respected, feared, and firmly established as the era's defining champion. But between 2001 and 2003, Lewis would face the final and perhaps most dangerous tests of his legacy. In just 4 fights, he would conquer a feared knockout artist, suffer one of the biggest upsets in boxing history, orchestrate a dramatic revenge mission, and survive a brutal war that convinced him it was time to walk away. These were the years that cemented his place among the greatest heavyweights ever, and the battles that nearly shattered it. This is the final chapter of Lennox Lewis's legendary career. Fight 41, 22nd April 2001, Brakpan, South Africa, versus Hasim Rahman, 34-2. Following 3 successful title defenses in 2000, Lennox Lewis entered 2001 with his sights firmly set on the super fight the boxing world had long demanded, a showdown with Mike Tyson. Lewis expected that bout to happen in the summer of 2001, but Tyson's 3-month suspension for testing positive for marijuana after the Andrew Golota fight put negotiations on hold. As Lewis waited for Tyson and even entertained a possible unification clash with WBA champion John Ruiz, he accepted a mandatory defense against relatively unheralded contender Hasim Rahman. Lewis came in as an overwhelming 20-1 favorite, but his preparation was widely criticized. While Rahman arrived in South Africa on March 27th to properly acclimate to Brakpan's 5,200-foot altitude, Lewis didn't land until April 10th. Instead of training at elevation, he chose to remain in Las Vegas, just 2,000 feet above sea level, so he could simultaneously film cameo scenes for the Hollywood movie Ocean's 11. On top of the altitude complications, the fight itself was scheduled for 5 a.m. local time, to suit HBO's US broadcast window, adding another unusual wrinkle to Lewis's preparation. Despite these factors, Lewis started the fight well. After a competitive opening round, he swept rounds 2 through 4 on all 3 scorecards, establishing a 39-37 lead. Rahman, however, had quietly begun to shift the momentum. By round 4, he was the aggressor, throwing 60 punches to Lewis's 33, matching him blow for blow and showing the confidence of a man who believed he belonged. Round 5 would change heavyweight history. Lewis spent most of the round stalking Rahman, throwing few punches as he searched for a single knockout shot, but Rahman remained composed, avoiding Lewis's power and slowly pushing him backward behind a stiff jab. With 46 seconds left in the round, Rahman backed Lewis into the ropes, and then came the moment that stunned the world. Lewis briefly dropped his hands, just for a second, and Rahman instantly launched a thunderous right hand that detonated cleanly on Lewis's jaw. Lewis crashed to the canvas, badly hurt, and struggled desperately to rise, but he could not beat the count. In one of boxing's greatest upsets, Hasim Rahman scored the knockout and became the new heavyweight champion of the world. It was a shocking end to one of the most surprising nights of the modern heavyweight era, and the beginning of a rivalry that would demand an immediate and dramatic conclusion later that year. Fight 42, 17th November 2001, Las Vegas, versus Hasim Rahman, 35-2. After suffering a shocking knockout defeat to Hasim Rahman earlier in the year, Lennox Lewis activated the rematch clause written into their first contract. Rahman, now aligned with Don King, explored several lucrative options following his title win. Showtime offered him over $19 million to face Mike Tyson, while HBO countered with a $17 million offer for an immediate rematch with Lewis. Rahman rejected both proposals, instead choosing a lower-risk bout against David Izon for $5 million. Lewis took the matter to court, and in June, a judge ruled in his favor, legally enforcing the rematch for November 17th in Las Vegas. Unlike their first meeting in South Africa, Lewis entered this fight fully focused, properly conditioned, and determined to reclaim his belts. From the opening bell, he imposed his authority, working behind a sharp, disciplined jab that immediately began controlling the distance and tempo. Lewis opened a cut over Rahman's left eye in the first round and dominated the early action, sweeping all 3 rounds on every judge's scorecard. Midway through the 4th round, Lewis found the decisive opening. He unleashed a perfectly timed left-right combination that crashed squarely onto Rahman's chin, sending the defending champion heavily to the canvas. Rahman attempted to rise, but fell back down at the count of 9, unable to continue. Lennox Lewis was declared the winner by knockout, emphatically avenging the upset and regaining his heavyweight championship. Fight 43, 8th June 2002, Memphis vs. Mike Tyson, 49-3. The long-delayed Lewis-Tyson showdown was finally set for Memphis after Nevada and several other states refused to license Tyson, largely due to the infamous press conference brawl earlier that year. With global anticipation at an all-time high, the two men entered the ring in front of a huge worldwide audience for a fight that had been nearly a decade in the making. Once the action began, it quickly became clear that the years of chaos surrounding Tyson had taken their toll. While Lewis arrived sharp, focused, and intent on making a statement, Tyson started strongly, charging forward with the aggression of old. But Lewis kept him at distance with a stiff, punishing jab and perfectly timed uppercuts. As the rounds progressed, Lewis's superior size, conditioning, and technical command took over. Tyson's face began to swell and cut under the constant impact, and his output diminished as Lewis systematically broke him down. By the middle rounds, Lewis was in full control, measuring Tyson, walking him into huge right hands, and sapping whatever remained of Tyson's resistance. In the 8th round, after absorbing a series of heavy shots, Tyson was floored twice. The second knockdown left him on his back as the referee completed the count. Lennox Lewis won by emphatic knockout, not only dominating his most famous rival, but reinforcing his status as the true heavyweight king of the era. Fight 44, 21st June 2003, Staples Center, Los Angeles, versus Vitali Klitschko, 32-1. After knocking out Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis took a year away from the ring, during which he vacated the IBF title and navigated a chaotic landscape of failed negotiations and shifting opponents. What was supposed to be a tune-up bout against Kirk Johnson collapsed when Johnson withdrew injured, leading Lewis and WBC mandatory challenger Vitali Klitschko to agree to meet far earlier than originally planned. Though not the lucrative Tyson rematch Lewis had pursued, it became one of the most dramatic heavyweight fights of the era. Klitschko entered as the underdog, but immediately proved his legitimacy, starting fast and dominating the opening rounds with aggression, heavy right hands, and constant pressure. He stunned Lewis early and opened a cut under the champion's left eye, winning the first 2 rounds convincingly. But in the third, Lewis responded like a champion, driving home a huge right hand that ripped open a deep cut above Klitschko's left eye. From that point on, the fight became a brutal, exhausting war of attrition. Both men traded powerful jabs, uppercuts, and looping rights in a ferocious battle that left them visibly drained. Klitschko fought through the worsening damage around his eye, and even regained momentum in the 4th, while Lewis turned the tide again with heavy inside shots and a savage uppercut in the 6th round that further compromised Klitschko's vision. By the end of the 6th, the challenger's left eye had become a horrific gash, prompting the ringside doctor to stop the fight before the 7th round could begin. Lewis was declared the winner by technical knockout, though Klitschko led 58-56 on all 3 judges' scorecards at the time of the stoppage. The result sparked immediate calls for a rematch, and Lewis initially showed interest. But after Klitschko defeated Kirk Johnson to officially re-earn his shot, Lewis chose not to fight again in 2003, and ultimately announced his retirement in February 2004. The Klitschko fight would stand as the final chapter of his career. One last war, one last victory, and one more reminder of his toughness, power, and championship resolve.